Alright guys, and here we are. Def Mods Def Tank 30mm. I dig the package. I like that it's round, it's different. Def Tank comes in here, you got your extras, you got O-rings, you got a little wrench, you've got replacement silicone adapter for the top. You have replacement tinted glass, which I like. You have an expansion bubble tank. I'm not a fan of that material, so I typically don't use it. It gets cloudy. I don't know. I just don't use it. But here's our def tank. Silky smooth. Everything on it is just silky smooth. Very similar design as we've seen from Voltrove, but I will say there are some differences with this tank that should be noted. So, first and foremost is the top cap on the Voltrove is quarter turn. This is threaded, but I will say the threads are like butter. Silky smooth, zero issues. And since there's the silicone adapter at the top, you don't have that O-ring that normally would sit here and fall out when you're washing it, or just fall out when you're going to refill and then it leaks and you can't figure it out. So I like that. To get it apart, of course, you have quarter turn or half turn latch system, however you want to word it. Now I already have this loaded up, but by request, I took her back down to show you guys how I get down on rewicking this thing. Now I've ran maybe 100 mils over these coils, but I always want to check and make sure that no hot spots popped up. So let's do a little quick dry burn. I can see one right there. That's your normal spot. Where your first wrap meets your first coil, at the very bottom where it touches the leg, is typically a problem area. What I do is I grab the leg with a pair of ceramic tweezers. Give it a little pull. You can see there's a little space in between the coils. That doesn't necessarily matter to me. Honestly, a spaced coil or a slightly spaced coil will heat up more evenly, period. Okay. Also notice that we're not getting these cherry hot. We're not getting them to the point where it's white, like it looks like you're looking at a bead from a welding wire. Just warm. These are short little pulses. I'm setting at 215 watts, just micro pulses. All we're looking for is to make sure no hot spots pop back up. We're good to go. Okay. Now we get to take a stab off of this and get some cotton. Coil specs. Coil specs on this are a 8 wrap, 4.5mm, 2736 Alien, A1 core with N80 on the wraps. This build is in here specifically because I wanted to see what this tank could do. So I can go back and forth between DNA or NLPWM or PWM with this build comfortably, and it's a lot of mass. So I questioned initially if this would even fit, and then I installed it, and then I ran it and realized, okay, this is a legit 30mm atomizer that can house some big builds. So we're wicking with Muji. And 4.5 mil strip, if you measure it out, is right at a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch strip. Go ahead and peel the outer layers off. I pinch the ends, give it a little pull. You can actually hear it when you're doing it yourself. It makes a little crunch noise. And all you're doing is just breaking up the fibers in the middle of the cotton, because we're able to fluff the ends, but you can't necessarily fluff the center. So that helps loosen up the center. So now we've got our cotton in, we need to cut it. We need to cut it to length. So what length is that, do you say? So I take my scissors, and on the very edge of this is this little lip right here. I cut that long at first, and then we kind of eyeball it from there. So let me go through and make my cuts. Hold my scissors almost level. Almost level. The reason I do it like this is because it's consistent. It's a repeatable process. It's something that I can show somebody and they can understand it, they can do it. When you just say, oh, I eyeball it, it doesn't really help anybody because it's your eyeball. It's not somebody else's. So long as we have a base point, we know where to cut.
Can we go outside? Like, why?
I always hold the other legs of cotton when I'm going through, kind of fluffing it a little bit, breaking it up, just so I don't pull it through. I mean, I'm not talking about literally pulling the whole thing of cotton through, but I want that length to stay the same. Another tip, always make sure to have clean hands if you're handling cotton. It's going in an atomizer that you're going to be vaping on, so you don't want oily, greasy hands or whatever could be on your hands. Okay? So I'm going to start just by putting it in one side, taking a look and determining if we need to thin it a little bit more from there. Which we do. We're actually going to shorten it just a little bit. Then we're going to nip the corners. I'm nipping the corners just so I can get the cotton to lay in there a little bit better. Okay? Call it a spade cut, call it whatever you want. So there we go. I'll show you exactly what we're looking for when you get your cotton put in there. When you get your cotton put in, you want to have enough room where you can actually put whatever you're putting the cotton in there with right there underneath the cotton. You don't want the cotton pressed down all the way into that. In other words, choking it. Pack it in there. Make sure you have a little bit of room under there. You don't need a lot, just some. So we know that our cotton is cut the same length on the other side. So we're just gonna save ourselves a step. Shorten it up. Okay. That's going to be perfect. So once you get it in, if you're just touching the bottom, put something in there and just lift it up a little bit. You just want to make sure that you're about halfway in there. So not all the way up here, not all the way down packed into here, but right about there. Hit it with some juice. What I do when I'm wicking and juicing up coils, usually I'll just gently press the fire button. And you can watch the juice just absorb into the coils. Alright, so let's slap her back together. Pretty straightforward process. Find your index line. I usually do a quarter turn back just to make sure it's locked in. Then I'll advance it past the index point. And that's usually where I'll fill it from. I won't turn it all the way back this way because, well, there's a lot of pressure on that O-ring and I don't want it to come unlatched by mistake. So I usually set it right about there so the wick port's closed off and you're not all the way past the unlock point. There we go. Should have some bubbles kicking here in a moment. We turn it, we miss them. That's alright. Let's take it up top, take a couple pulls. Alright, so back up. Got a def tank setting on an A3K. Clean up these little pieces of cotton. Setting on a A3K and LPWM on a pass-through. So basically equivalent to a 3S pack. Setting at 215 watts. Nothing crazy yet, because it's all freshy fresh. But this tank has a pile of airflow. If you can't seem to get enough airflow from anything, for a 30mm atomizer, I don't think there's a tank on the market that has this much. That's sitting at 215. That's literally nothing crazy by my standards. I believe this RTA has more airflow than this Twisted Messes 30 RTA. boy, it's comparable. It's certainly comparable. The flavor off of this thing with a nice chungus set of coils is excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. 4.5 millimeter is key. 3.5 is going to get it closer to the airflow, but you're going to miss out on some key features on this deck, which is the side directional airflow. So not only does it come up, but it also comes up from the side. So if your coils are down below that, all that air is missed. So I would say a 4 millimeter coil at minimum. 4.5 is perfect. There's plenty of room to build it, to wick it, as you saw. And overall, it is just a very pleasing tank to look at. It's clean. I like the two-part drip tip. Just has a nice look to it. It's an 810, so if you wanted to grab another drip tip, that's an 810. Pop it on. There you go. No leaks, no nothing. Condensation is the only thing you'll see in the bottom. Big pulls. Big pulls, all the beans you got. It doesn't hesitate. I was running this build when I had it wicked up last time, I think at 315. .315 brings the heat. I took this live the other night up to 625 before my lipo shot out. By shot out, I mean that's all it could do. I think it was sitting at like 15.4 or 15.5, something like that. So if you're after a 30 mil tank that has a pile airflow, kick-ass flavor, easy to build on, very straightforward to wick, functions 110% as intended, these are just fantastic tanks. Fantastic tanks. I don't know how much this power supply will give me, but we'll see. 344 is what the power supply will give me. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. You don't even see a pile of wicking bubbles, just because it is constantly doing its thing while you're using it. And that's the idea. When you have it wicked properly, you're going to see wicking bubbles, but every hit should be nice and saturated, not too oversaturated, but should be able to pull, pull, pull. Pull, 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 and it just keeps going and going and going. So that's my take on Def Tank 30. It's a solid tank. It's going to be in my rotation pretty much at all times unless it's getting cleaned. That's 100%. That is 100%. So hopefully you guys found this helpful, intuitive, spunky. Peace.